Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. I'm here with Glen Willis and Tyler Jones. We're recording on a Friday night after the Hawks' first game, and the starting point of the NBA tonight is Las Vegas. Glenn, how did you think the Hawks looked in Las Vegas today?
Uh, I mean, what I appreciated is that they showed a lot of resilience. It feels like it's a carryover from what we saw the big league level last year, where adversity down 10, 12 points and just keep working, stay focused on the task at hand. Um, and the one adjustment I like that Brian Bailey made was deploying full court pressure about halfway through the third quarter. That really did impact Miami's offense to force the ball to the primary ball handlers and creators' hands into secondary guys. And then in the fourth quarter, Kobe came in and just took over. He just took over the game in the fourth quarter, and just made grown man play after grown man play after grown man play. That was, I mean, he hadn't played a real basketball game in a long time, so that was me pretty impressive to see.
What were your takeaways, Tyler? Where do you want to highlight?
Well, let's start with the good. Just overall, to me, I felt like um, Kobe Bufkin was showed me everything that I expected him of him. Like I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. I thought, this is the type of talent that he is, and it's good to see him put it to film so that maybe a little bit of Hawks fans get off his back a little bit about his injuries. But no, he was great. I really liked that in the fourth quarter in particular. He made it an emphasis to get to the rim, and because the Heat didn't really have the perimeter defenders to guard him, and so like he really made and he just dominated. Like he just got through his spots, drew contact, and was very good at drawing a good whistle because he's emphasizing where he's getting hit at. So like I thought it was a very professional point guarding, like the type of stuff I envision I would want for my backup point guard at Trae Young is somebody like Kobe Buffing who's able to create shot for himself, others, and also get to the free throw line when he has an advantage like he showed tonight. So he was great. Um, and Eli Eli NJ or Ellie NJ, sorry, he was incredible. Like that was impressive. He basically like I feel like he plays center for pretty much the majority of the game against a real 7 footer, real with real size, and like he was dominating. Uh, while I'm blanking on their center's name, but like I thought he dominated him
Delaware,
on both sides. Yeah,
Delaware.
Delaware. I thought he was just pushing him around, shoving him around, taking him out of the plays on both ends. And then he was a good rim protector when he was there. Havoc creator on defense, getting rebounds, getting blocks. The fast break block that he had, like it was a highlight level block. But was just as impressive to me was he took the lob away first, and so like he like baited him to try to dunk on him, and like he timed him perfectly. That was like for this is my really the first time I've seen him play a full game. Outside of there are highlight clips you can watch at YouTube. It's hard to find full games of him. That was impressive, and like I thought he really stood out next to Kobe on really his complete game. I mean, him just relocating to the corner when Kobe drove like that won the game. You know, and he took it with and he was taking threes no hesitation. Like he looked like a real player, and like he looked like somebody like of all the guys, him, Kobe, and I would say Jacob Toppin. Those look like the three guys who could potentially I could see getting real rotation minutes for the Hawks next season, just based on what they showed in the first game. Like they looked ready to play, and I really appreciated their effort tonight.
Yeah, it's interesting with NJ. You could tell he played on a high level team that had high level expectations for fundamentals and knowing what to do and where to be. That Kobe got completely stuck and nobody moved but him. He was the one who moved and created a passing lane for Kobe, and you could just tell like he played on a championship level team in Europe, and all of those he's been in an environment where those expectations are there all the time that where you're supposed to be in the right place. And then defensively, it wasn't just him like using his athleticism and size. His instincts were great. Like, his timing, I remember after the Portland game last year, we talked about how Robert Williams was timing everything out of the weak side corner, just like timing it. I mean, his instinct and timing on everything was just really, really impressive. And he looks like a real defender. They're going to help him learn how to dribble the ball better, strong the ball, that will come. And I think the shot will become more efficient. But hey, the first
But
rule is fly,
but
So
Glenn, beyond all, like, yes, there's technique stuff they can work on, but on offense, the processing was great.
yeah,
Ball
yeah,
never stuck. Moving
yeah.
from A to B, set hard screens, roll to the rim, like, and then constantly being again, he was shoving Miami Heat players out of the way. Like that was for a guy who's not that old. Like I think he's what 21. Like and that Heat summer league team is a very like veteran laden team outside of their recent
Yeah.
draft picks who have either had NBA experience or on the cusp of being on the NBA roster. He he treated them like they were food. I was just the physicality from somebody this young from Europe, really impressive. Like this is not something I watched a little Noah Isenge um from the Bulls before coming on to the podcast tonight, and you could just tell like the lack of physicality. You could see it, and also you could see it Saloon from his rookie year to what he did tonight or today, like the difference in his level of physicality, his comfort level. Like it takes these guys like a year. We saw it with Ricochet. It took him like 2 months to get acclimated to the game physically on an NBA floor. Granted, Ellie's an older prospect, but like he's ready to go. Like physically, he is there, and like the processing, what he was doing on both ends, really impressed me throughout the night.
Yeah, he's a little bit like he gives you a little bit like what Mo Gay gave the Hawks last season. But it's different. He's
He's
not as
stronger.
big, but he covers so much ground that he takes a lot of angles away.
Yeah,
I think he can
and
get
he's just
even
stronger.
better.
He's just stronger and more
He's,
physical.
he's
He's
stronger.
stronger and
He's
more physical
much.
for sure. Oh yeah. Like there was one play I think where he had a box out and he lost the rebound because he couldn't hold his position like somebody was leaning on him and he kind of fumbled the ball because he wasn't quite set. But like he's a strong kid and I still think there's like a little bit of there he's more polished defensively than offensively, but there's still I think some technique things that he can do to be a little bit more present, like when he's in pick and roll coverage, like that split second between when you've got to sort of contain the roll man and then get over back to the ball. Like I think there's some stuff with his hips and his timing and his footwork, so he's getting off the right foot that he can clean up a little bit to be a little bit quicker on those. But like once he does that, like
But
he just covers so
Kevin,
much ground.
I I want to know how much center has he played in his career? Like
I would
that,
guess. I mean, I would
because
guess
like
maybe at like junior levels, maybe he did more of that. I don't think he would have done that much last season on that
No,
yeah,
roster.
no, Bruno and Eddie played center on that team. So
Yeah. So I
yeah,
think maybe it's like he's getting back to what he got to do at the junior levels and he feels more comfortable with it or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, it doesn't look like it's really that much of an issue for him.
yeah.
yeah, I'm
That's
excited.
why
I'm excited. I'm excited about
impressed.
him.
Yeah, I was impressed. Like, and I think he's got a pretty long wingspan too. Like, I wouldn't be, I don't think his wingspan was ever measured officially. I think the Hawks found something. It's one game. I understand that, but like the things he was doing on both sides of the floor with his level of athleticism and size, like that translates to an NBA floor. And so I just think the Hawks might have found, a diamond in the rough just because for Real Madrid, unlike a lot of European prospects, he was starting or he was in the rotation consistently. So it's just somebody to monitor and to be really impressed by. Just based on look, I'd like to see if he can continue this, but like that was an incredible first game because again, that Heat team's a good summer league Heat team. I understand they got some flaw, like whatever people think, like they play professional basketball for 40 minutes, when
Yeah.
whether it's 40 minutes or 48 minutes. Uh, they're playing pro ball on both sides of the floor. They're executing their schemes. They're attacking mismatches. They're like it's that's the system that Miami Heat have cultivated over the years. And so like for him to step again, he comes from a professional setting, but still for him to step in and look that well for his first like NBA foray, that was impressive.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm sort of intrigued by is like, I guess I said this last night on David's podcast was like, okay, so the Hawks, roster wise, like the one thing that they've emphasized is they've gotten all of these guys, whether it's Newell or Njai or even somebody like was it Nelly Jr. Jordan? Top and two would fall into this category. It's like one of the things that the Hawks have done a lot of since Quinn has taken over as head coach is they really want that corner shooter power forward to crash the offensive glass, but they haven't really at all times have had like the off. I'm sorry, start that sentence all over again. They haven't all the time had the most athletic guys at that position. I think, maybe with Sadiq Bey, we saw maybe the player who could take the most advantage of that. But if you have some of these players like this and you're not necessarily involving them that much in the offense, except to have them kind of space the floor and get to the corner, the fact that after that shot goes up, that they're really going to crash the offensive glass and be impactful there really kind of changes the math side of things because you're just getting so many extra possessions with these fours that crash the offensive glass.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they were so active on the offensive glass, and they did a pretty good job team rebounding on defense. I mean, I don't think he even had 10 turnovers. They took care of the basketball. They were very professional.
Kobe
You
had
know,
one.
yeah, yeah. But I think they had by the fourth quarter they had six as a team or whatever it was. So um, yeah. So it's just yeah. It was fun to watch Kobe lead that comeback, and he was just steady and stable and grown up. Like he playing grown up basketball is what I call it. The Toppin knows what he is. Like we talk all the time about players who know what they're good at and try to lean into what they're good at. His running and jumping and his speed that's a real strength of his, right? He's got for him to be able to kind of play against regularly, he's got to get a little stronger too, right? But if you let him run the floor, you let him play in space, and his athleticism is gonna pop all the time. You get him down on a guy who's 6'11", 250, and he's trying to kind of help as a second rebounder on that guy. That's and the same for Asa. Asa Newell, you saw him when he got to the rim. If there was anybody with any size in front of him, he could not finish through that defender today. And that's not a surprise. They talked openly about that at his press conference. Got to eat more. Got to So they know that that's there. But I still like in the first quarter, I thought his help tendencies were good. I thought he was active and engaged on defense, and which was I think exceeded my expectations for the first game. But you just watch him and it's like, okay, he's probably not going to play a lot this year. He's probably going to be just in the weight room like constantly, which is what should happen. But I love his motor and I love how engaged he was and all that sort of stuff. But he's young. We're trying to get stronger. And it's funny to watch Kobe come out there with all that muscle in his upper body. He looked like a different person.
Kobe has gained weight like that, and that's good to see for him because he was more of a slender guy. And if he wants to play more minutes than just backup point guard, he's going to have to, and play next to Trey. He's just got to be a bigger guy. And so that was like, it's good to see that he's put in that. I mean, I never doubted Kobe's work ethic or anything. It's pure like it just like to me, and I just want to keep reemphasizing this. Like he cannot control getting injured the way he's gotten injured. Like there's labrum tears. What are you gonna do? Like that's a fluke. I mean, it's a fluke injury that happens to a lot of athletes if you just get hit the wrong way, like you tear your labrum and you have to get surgery. Like it sucks, but it happens. And he tried to play through it during the summer and it didn't work. And then he broke his hand his rookie year. Like what this is not like hamstrings. These aren't quads. They're not even like calf injuries. They're not soft tissue injuries. So I'm not somebody who's going to be mad at a guy who's getting hurt because he's getting hit and being physical. Like that's just the nature of basketball. So hopefully this added weight will help him. And like to me, I'm just happy that he's out there, he's playing, and he looked that great. To your point about Newell though, clearly just there's two things that he can help himself in the short term though. He's just not going to be that strong, and he has to recognize that the NBA is just a different beast. Like guys are just going to be stronger than you year over year, so you got to be smarter. You know, kind of what Ricochet did. Like Ricochet was just a
Exactly.
little bit
You're gonna do
smarter
that.
with hey, I can't go through anybody right now, so I'm going to pass and move. If the shot, I'm taking floaters. I'm not engaging physicality right now just because it's not going to work. Like every time he tried to go through somebody, it was just like, brother, this is not high school. So he's going to have to adjust in the short term. But I'm with you, Glenn. Like the talent is pretty obvious to me. I just think overall defensively he can tighten some stuff up defensively though. I thought especially on switches he needs to be on a lower stance and he needs to have his arms up and he's got to trust his quickness because like the couple shots he let Kasparis get off like somebody his physical athletic gifts like he should not give him anything. He's got to be more down in a more down stance to get the most out of his out of himself as a basketball player defensively. So that's something in the short term he can work on besides gaining weight and gaining muscle, which is going to time. He's going to get there. Like I'm not worried about that. Like that comes with age and maturation.
Yeah, the Hawks definitely prioritized. They did with Ricochet, they did with Kobe and with Newell. They check in. Does the guy work? Is the guy coachable? Does the guy think put team first? All that sort of stuff. And from talking to people around the Hawks that what they love about Kobe is his mental toughness and his resilience. And that's what you see from him all the time. I mean, it's those little parts of the game, but he's even in pick and roll he was so much better than he was last time I saw him play at timing, giving the screener time the time to get the angle and the leverage. As all that little stuff. He's so much better at that now than he was when we saw him play last time. He was a master at just taking a half step in the opposite direction to set up the screener to have a little bit more space to get the exact right angle of the screen. And all that stuff really really matters. And that's the stuff I enjoyed as much as anything, which is how masterful he was at all the little parts of the game. And his pace in the pick and roll was great. His timing and moving in and out of screens was great. And like on plays where he got stuck, he doesn't panic. And that's something Hawks love about him. He just stays calm and looks for a place to kind of move the basketball. And he's just so steady. And so I'm knock on wood and burn incense or do whatever you do to send good vibes to Kobe staying healthy this year because man, I want to see what he can do.
I just I feel like Kobe's going to play himself into the rotation. Like to me, now regardless of what happens in summer league, I just think I to me and I felt this way about Kobe since they drafted him. He's somebody who wants to be a great player in this league. Like he actively wants to be a great player. Like the subtlety, I can't stress like how he was drawing fouls is veteran stuff. Like that's stuff Trey Young does. Like, oh, I got an unathletic defender on me. I'm gonna beat him to the spot, and then I'm gonna make it obvious that you have to call the foul. Like it's because it's an obvious foul because I beat him clearly, and then I have enough wherewithal and enough hand-eye coordination to get the ball up so I'm in a shooting motion and get 2 free throws. Like, and he did that the entire fourth quarter. And I'm like, and he was like steady, took his time. He wasn't going to be rushed. He wasn't going to force anything, and brought the team back. And I'm like, the Hawks need somebody like this. They need somebody besides Trae Young to be able to do something like this. And I just think, to me, like, if he continues the summer that he apparently's had from all, like, Brad doesn't usually leak stuff. He's telling everybody that, hey, Kobe's had a great summer, and they were saying that last year about him as well. And I'm before the injury, and I just think this is a continuation. This is why the Hawks haven't traded him, why they're not giving up on him. They believe in the talent, and I just think this is somebody who you want to invest in to see what he has, because they could absolutely use another shot creator like this. This
Yeah.
Like, they absolutely need this type of player to pair next to, either to pair next to Trae or to relieve Trae, so you're not playing him 38 minutes every game if you're trying to win. Like that, this is just something this team need, and like, they don't have this right now. And but Kobe is showing me, and he kind of showed me last year as well. So I'm glad he's continuing what he's
Yeah,
built on.
yeah, and part of the brilliance of the Kennard acquisition is that if there are some games where they're playing a top five defense and it's not clicking for Kobe, Kennard can just consume those. Like, you can swing those minutes towards Kennard. He's an insurance policy. If Kobe gets hurt, or some matchups where you have to have a veteran group on the floor to close the game, Kennard can Kennard can play on and off the ball like Kobe can play on and off the ball. And the versatility he has, that Kobe has, being able to play off the ball too, is super valuable. So when they called that, when Brian Bailey called that time out in the third quarter, I was like, what are they going to do to impact Yakashona this year? Right? So, and they came out and they were full court press, applying ball pressure full court the whole rest of the game, and basically he couldn't do anything after that. So it just kind of goes to, he had a rough stretch in California, in the two games they played there, two or three. I can't remember how many games they played there. But it just kind of goes to show you that, like, when they were sitting back in the half court and playing their basic scheme, he felt really comfortable. And so as a coaching staff, you're like, how can we make him uncomfortable? And that full court ball pressure basically shut that down. So I thought he, as a coach, like a coaching staff, deserved a lot of credit for deploying a complete change in strategy. And that's when the Miami offense kind of hit a brick wall, and when they were having to play through some other players, some, less, more secondary, tertiary creators and things like that. So I thought that big adjustment was worth kind of calling out too. I think that really helped the team.
You know, to get to the negative aspect of this, like, a lot of what Kasparis was doing, or Kasparis, sorry, was doing, was attacking Nico off the dribble, and like, he was consistently getting to his spots, and like, Nico was providing no resistance, or he was fouling. Um, and so really, like, it was the ball pressure, but primarily it was like, all right, Nico, you're gonna be pressing up, you know, 94 feet or whatever. But then if you get screened off, we're switching hard. And so, like, we're getting a better defender on the Kasparis once the set starts, because, like, it's tough, talk about Nico. But I said this on Blue Sky and Twitter a little bit. I was just like, it's tough for me to evaluate him, because he's clearly not in game shape. And so, I, you know, the drives were impressive in the first quarter when he had the energy. And then that immediately went away after the first stint, because he just literally, I felt like he just was not in the type of shape a professional basketball player, especially for a Hawks team that plays at this high pace. He just wasn't in the requisite shape that he needed to be in. He did say that he's been hurt, so there's probably some stuff that we don't know about that's been going on. He just got healthy, so like, he's got to work through it. But I do think it's good that the Hawks weren't trying to hide him at all. Like, they were like, you're guarding their guy who's going to be the point guard, 94 feet, and we're not taking you out. We can clearly see your gas. We don't care. You're playing. You're playing. Then, the 20 plus minutes we got assigned to you, you're going to play that entire time, because you got to get in better shape. And so, like, I think this is a good wake up call for him, for Nico, uh, to get it together, even though he signed the contract with, like, also, like, hey man, like, You only got 1 year guaranteed. So, and like I'm not trying to like I don't know what the injury is. So like he could have had a legitimate injury. I understand that, but if you're deemed healthy enough to play, you got to be in better shape than this. Because this, like to me, I looked at him. I'm like, bro, you can't be wheezing out here. Like this is not acceptable. Like the Heat basically were going to win the game on the back of him just not being in shape, which sucks for him because like overall, I thought particularly in that first quarter when he had the juice, he was good. He was getting to his spots. He was getting to his mid ranger. Like he was rising up over guys. He was bowling guys over offensively. Defensively, it wasn't great, but it wasn't like what it was in the second half where he was just like a literal cone. And like either he was going to be a cone or he was just going to foul the entire time because he could provide no resistance. So like there's just some stuff he's got to work on physically, but like the talent is clearly there, and I am happy that he got his got signed to the big league club because I do think he's an NBA caliber player, but he's got to put in the hours over the summer. Like that's just the reality. Like he's got to put in the work. Uh, the way I know for a fact that Mo Gay's put in the work, the way I know for a fact that Kobe Bufkin's put in the work. Like I don't know that about Nico. I haven't heard anything about Nico putting in the work. Not saying he's not doing it. I'm just saying you hear like we all hear things. We kind of figure out who the guys who put in the hours and who aren't. And like he's got to put in the hours, like if he wants to be an NBA player, because the talent is there. But like if he flames out here for the Hawks, nobody's going to be give you a second chance, based on what you've shown in your prep career and what you've shown in the G League and in the summer league. So like he's got to get it together.
Yeah, I think first thing to fix is defending without fouling. That was the biggest problem today. Technique. Second is he wasn't able to contain the ball. Don't know how much that is just like Tyler said, not having his legs under him, not able to do full conditioning, because of injury and things like that. I mean, he has the size to be physical as a defender, but I to my Patreon I put out a video on how I watch summer league. What I look for is guys get 10% better every game. That's really kind of what you're looking for is are they taking the lessons they learned from the previous game, especially with areas where they struggled, and kind of figuring out what it takes to kind of get 10% better game. So it's gonna be interesting to see in the next game if he's has a little bit better ball containment, if he has a little bit better, footwork, at the point of attack, if he's keeping his hands back, as opposed to kind of reaching out and giving an obvious foul, to the officials. So a lot of it was just sloppy technique, and part of that shows up sometimes when you're tired. That's when it shows up sometimes when you're tired. And so for all we know, like he wasn't able to do the conditioning that he was doing, so that you would normally be doing. So for me, and I'm not gonna, I know some Hawks fans kind of freaked out on social media watching it. It's just one game, right? Let's see how the rest of the schedule goes for him.
Yeah, it definitely felt like a tale of two halves for him. Like the mistakes he made in the second half, it didn't seem like was a big issue in the first half. So I don't know. Like I imagine that it was a long day for him with the emotions of getting that first NBA contract earlier in the day. Like weird stuff happens. So that may just be a weird day for him. I don't know. I'm curious to see, and like certainly it's the one of the more interesting storylines going forward here. How many games do you think Kobe's going to play? Like there was a play, I guess it must have been the first half. It must have been late in the first half where he took a shot on the same shoulder that was an issue. He some I think somebody didn't call out the screen. It was like just over the midcourt line, and he hit like
Yeah.
the 7 foot, 250 pound center, like running full speed with a perfectly legal but very vicious screen. And stayed in the game and all that. And I'm just wondering like how protective of the Hawks, like how protective are the Hawks going to be? How much do they want to see him just get in a good rhythm? Like, do you, how many games do you think he's going to play?
Yeah, I mean, he showed enough in game one that you could just be like, we're done. I mean, he's there. Like he could do everything that we need him to do. But at the same time, he hasn't played a lot of basketball in a while. So having him play one more, probably feels like guys like him usually or oftentimes will play 2 games and then be done. That 2 is kind of the magic number for guys like him. But the Hawks might just feel like, no, we're gonna give him reps. We're gonna let him get reps. He needs to play. So it'll be interesting to see, but it's hard for me to kind of guess what they're gonna do.
And
But they
sometimes,
but they don't when they shut him down, they're gonna have a harder time winning games.
sure, sure. And with these Las Vegas games, they typically get a little bit more ragged as
Yep.
you get towards the end of the session because you've got the guys who maybe didn't play as much in the first couple games. They get a little bit more desperate as the week gets on. The last few games can be pretty physical and pretty ugly, and they may keep him out of that fray. I wonder if they'll either play him one game or maybe play him the first halves of 2 games or something like that. But yeah,
Right.
I can't. My guess is that he wouldn't play all 5, but that's just a guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, some teams actually want to win the championship, want to win the thing, and but I think that's like 2 or 3 teams every year that actually are like, okay, that would be fun for us to go win this thing. I think a lot of other teams are just like, we're gonna play the minimum number of games, call it a day, get out of here. They don't want guys to get hurt and things like that. So, I know that I know they're holding the players to a high standard and expecting them to embrace the concepts and all that sort of stuff. But typically you see guys cycle through. You know, you'll probably see 3 or 4 guys who didn't play game 1 playing game 2. On Sunday. And we'll see what that looks like.
One of the things that it felt like to me the Hawks were doing was making sure that they played their best players with Asa Newell. Like they were putting the
Yep.
talent around him. They were trying to give him the opportunity to do the right things and be in the right spots and not be at a disadvantage with the people that were around him. I thought one of those people was Adam Flagler. What did you see from him? He's obviously a more experienced guy than some of these younger players. What did he contribute to this win or this effort?
Well, I mean, he plays with pace, and the ball doesn't stick with him. He didn't. He's a high level shooter. That didn't show up today, but these guys are getting used to each other, and things like that. And the Hawks, the Warriors, of course, run motion stuff and all that sort of stuff. So that shouldn't be new. But game 1, getting used to it. But he was a willing shooter, and he hit good ball handler. Like he was secure with the basketball when he had it. So I think that was a plus as well. And on defense, that's not his forte, but he plays professionally on that end. He communicates, he's connected, and all that sort of stuff. So, the one skill he has that's a legitimate NBA skill is the 3-point shot. Right, that's the one skill he has. But he showed me more in some other areas than I expected to see today. But I want to watch him play a couple more games before I feel like I really kind of know what's going on there.
Thoughts on Flagler, Tyler?
I thought he was an adult, you know, primarily, particularly on offense. He was a more settled player of the non like outside of Kobe. Like he was probably the best guard. I would say. I liked how much pressure he was playing on defensive side of the floor. I think, particularly in the second half, I think just team wise, they were like, "Hey, we're getting up into these guys' chests and like let's go." And I thought Flagler did a pretty good job. But he provided good spacing. I think he's a known shooter, and like teams, the Heat, they read their scouting report, they respect him as a shooter. So it let the driving lanes for Kobe be a lot easier compared to what it was with Nico, where it's more of a muddled setting where they weren't defending Nico when he didn't have the ball in his hand. So um, that's where I thought with Flagler. I'd like to see more. I would suspect once Kobe is shut down, Flagler's going to be the guy. If that makes sense, just because he's just the more polished, the most polished guard currently. But I do think I will say this. Nico was at his best. Like both Nico and Kobe were at their best when they were playing next to Adam Flagler, like offensively. Like
Thank you.
Flagler's
Yeah.
shooting gravity allowed them to do what they do best, which is driving. Which is, I talked about this on David's podcast. Something the Hawks severely lack is good driving offensive players, and so like I thought both Kobe and Nico really benefited from those two guys getting being able to get the point A to point B without a bad shooter playing next to him. So like I just think Flagler overall was an adult. Like he looks like somebody who's been playing in the NBA for a couple of seasons, and it was good to see that from him.
Uh, is there any other noticeable trends, any other players that we haven't discussed yet that you want, kind of open the floor here to whatever it is you want to talk about?
I
What's
mean,
left?
last thing for
Kobe
me,
Johnson? What else is there to talk about
yeah,
here
I
that we
mean,
haven't?
it was he had a rough one, you know.
Yeah.
So defensively, I thought he was aggressive and active, but he's a little out of control, out of place sometimes. But it's first game, so I'm not too worried about that. Offensively, you can see the skills aren't there yet, so he's going to need 2 years to develop into potentially an NBA player, that kind of thing. The other trend was the Hawks had 16 assists on 36 makes. Miami is so good at not letting you create easy, like, kick passes to a wide open. I mean, they make you create your shots. And well, the Hawks put up 105 points today, and there was a lot of self creation. And Kobe did a whole lot of that in the fourth quarter. But I mean, for Kobe to deal with that was impressive. That Miami just does not let you touch the paint and kick out to an open shooter. They just don't let you do it ever. And so their what they did demonstrated around understanding how they were going to have to create shots differently and do that successfully was impressive.
Uh, I was impressed by Toppin, particularly because it seemed like he played a lot of three. Like I think he
Yeah,
only
he
played
did.
the three,
Yeah, yeah,
and so like that's not a position I thought he could do. And so it's interesting that the Hawks put him there, and I think they trust his shooting that he can play there. And he had a no dip three, confident, like he's a confident offensive player. Just overall, kind of weirdly enough, kind of reminds me of Jabari Parker, uh, a little bit. Just the way he uses his body to create that space and separation to get his shots off. So like I've been consistently impressed since the Hawks have acquired uh, Jacob Toppin with his overall game, and like I'd like to see what he looks like when it's not as easy as it is, because like Kobe made it a lot easier for a lot of these guys. Like he made it a lot easier, and so it's going to be interesting to see how they look without that aspect. I'm assuming Kobe's probably going to play one more game, if maybe, but he might not, honestly. So we'll see with that. But yeah, I was impressed with Toppin. It felt like he was playing a new position, and so it was good to see him kind of excel there a little bit.
Yeah, it just feels like such a hard read. Like it it feels like he does like all of like the basic stuff well. It's just choppy. Like I want to see like more flow of the game stuff and see if he can make consistent good decisions. So he's like one of the players that I really want to focus on going forward just to see what it looks like. But
makes sense.
all right. Well, more summer league games ahead, and I appreciate you joining me to wrap this one up. All right. Good night, Bob.
All right,
Good
Bob.
night, Bob.